Serge, very good morning to you. There we are. We're at the Brickyard, probably the most famous motor racing stadium in the world. 250,000 seats. It's the biggest sporting stadium in the world. It is an amazing place to come to. MotoGP has been here since 2008. A lot of changes to the circuit this time round. It's been resurfaced. Some of the corners have been reconfigured, and we're in for a superb afternoon and morning to start with of racing, starting with Moto3. The summer break is over, as I said. We're in America. The second half of the season is underway. Good morning to you. I'm Nick Harris, sitting alongside me, Gregory Haynes, and down in pit lane, as always, Dylan Gray.
We're going to talk about the weather first of all again, unfortunately, as we've had to do over the last few race events, but there is rain not too far from here. Thankfully, it has not rained here at the Speedway for pretty much the whole weekend. We did have a few drops which affected one of the Moto3 sessions on Friday, but other than that, it's dry for the time being and everything looking good for the start of this 23-lap race then for Moto3. Here's the man on pole position, his second hat-trick of poles completed, his 6th of the season. It's the championship leader, Jack Miller.
Yeah, 4 wins this season for Jack Miller. He's 19 years old from Townsville in Queensland. He leads the World Championship, a 19-point advantage, and a real morale-boosting win for him at the previous round at Sachsenring in Germany after he crashed out in the previous round in Holland. So Jack Miller in pole position for the 6th time this season.
What a front row it is. Look at the man in the middle of that front row there. Number 7 is Efren Vasquez. He's a married man now, so new responsibilities. But what about the responsibility for him this afternoon? Can he get ahead of Miller on that short run up to the very, very quick left-hander at turn 1? 27 years of age. One of the older riders in the field, actually, and he's still up there in 3rd position in the championship. 30 points behind now, Miller, but with still half the season to go.
Yeah, it's his first front row since when he was in pole position in Le Mans. That was a race he nearly won. Efren Vasquez still chasing that first elusive Grand Prix victory, and that is not the case with the man who has qualified on the front row 3rd fastest.
Yes, Alex Marquez, the only man other than Miller who could lead the championship at the end of the day. He's 19 points behind the Australian, younger brother of MotoGP world champion Marc, and he's starting on the front row of the grid for the 3rd consecutive Grand Prix. Pole in Catalonia, 2nd at Assen, 3rd at the Sachsenring, so that makes it in fact the 4th consecutive Grand Prix, doesn't it, on the front row then for Alex Marquez. Twice a winner so far this season, and this man right behind him. Equal best qualifying of the year so far then for Romano Fenati.
Yeah, Romano Fenati, the 18-year-old Italian, riding for the Sky Valentino Rossi team. 4th in the World Championship. He's had 3 wins, Argentina, Jerez and Mugello. This equals his best ever qualifying. As I say, 18 years old. It seems didn't seem like yesterday when as a 16-year-old he was making his MotoGP debut and winning just his 2nd ever Moto3 race, which he won in Jerez in 2012.
Yes, and the last time he started 4th on the grid, he went on to win the race, and that was that memorable event at Mugello in Italy, his home Grand Prix. But some sensational performances alongside Fenati on the 2nd row. This man, first of all, the Spaniard Juan Fran Guevara, he's getting better all the time. Debuted Aragon 2012, as you can see actually there at the bottom of the screen. But to be in the middle of the 2nd row is a quite phenomenal performance on the Mapfre Aspar bike.
Yeah, as Gregory said, there have been a few shocks, and it certainly wasn't down to the weather in qualifying. The weather was fine because this 2nd row is completed by Jorge Navarro, the young Spaniard. It's his 4th Grand Prix appearance, but the previous 3 have been as a wild card entry. He replaces Livio Loy, the Belgium rider. Of course, finished 4th in Argentina, didn't he, Livio Loy? And he is qualified on the 2nd row of the grid, just his 4th Grand Prix appearance. And he's gained a lot of experience this year, winning experience as well.
Talking about Jorge Navarro, I'm just down here on the grid with Michael Bartolome. Michael, absolutely fantastic performance from Jorge there. I mean, were you expecting that?
No. No, it's clear. I was never expecting because he never tested the bike. He was never in Indianapolis, and to qualify the bike in 2nd row is a fantastic job. And also, in GP weekend to find a good setup is so difficult because we have limited time. So even the warm-up this morning we have used to change still a little bit on the bike, and I hope that he can make a good race and that he can learn a lot of things and that we can go with the same result to Brünn.
But I mean, realistically speaking, what are you hoping from the race? Do you think maybe even a podium's in it?
No, I think a podium is difficult, but from this starting position, if already he could go in the top 10, I think it's a fantastic result for somebody that made his first GP and came here without any test.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Michael.
Well, Jorge Navarro knocked John McPhee off that second row of the grid right at the end of the session, the 20-year-old Scotsman. But he's done well. He's qualified on the third row, 7th fastest. He equalled his best ever result with a 7th place in the Sachsenring. And welcome back to the man in the middle of that third row, Francesca Bagnaia.
Yes, he was injured with an injured wrist. Picked up in the warm-up session for the Dutch TT at Assen 2 races ago, so missed that race and missed also the race in Germany a month ago. Don't forget we have had the summer break for MotoGP since then, so it's the first race back, the second half of the season about to kick off. Also a very strong performance indeed for this man Alessandro Tonucci, the Italian, completes that third row alongside McPhee and Bagnaia.
Yeah, there are some unusual names up there. 20th in the World Championship, Tonucci. Got a bit of pace about him though, and it's going to be very interesting first couple of laps, as it often is in Moto3. Stay out of trouble. Nobody's going to escape. Jack Miller was telling us this. It's going to be one of those races right to the flag. And then do you want to be leading coming into that long start and finish straight? Probably you don't unless you've got a good lead. So a lot of tactical riding.
Well, let's ask him. I'm actually just down here now with Jack Miller. Jack, Nick reckons you don't want to be leading coming down into this home straight. I mean, what do you think? Slipstreaming looks so important here.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be a tight race. Nobody's getting away. I mean, the wind just funnels straight in down here, down the speedway. So it's going to be a tight old race, and we'll see what happens. It's, you know, we just got to take it as it comes, I guess.
Obviously, new surface here. Any concerns about tyre degradation?
I think everybody's in the same boat. Most of us are all on the medium option, and I think we're all going to be in the same boat come the end of the race. There's going to be a lot of slipping and sliding for sure.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jack. Best of luck.
There's Jack Miller in pole position, which he saw his teammate Karel Hanneke, the current Red Bull Rookies MotoGP champion. So his first ride at Indianapolis, a crash in practice. But he's done well to qualify 10th, and it was a crash in practice for Alexei Masbu in the middle of that 4th row in qualifying, Greg. Interestingly
for Hanneke as well, the IO Motorsport team has done a great job in repairing that bike because it was quite badly damaged in a crash in the warm-up session this morning as well. But as you say, Nick, yes, Masbu did recover. It was a great damage limitation exercise to go 11th on the grid. And this man, Alex Rins, very much out of position in many ways. Won this race last year from pole position, but a real struggle here in qualifying yesterday. And for that reason, finds himself right down on the 4th row and 12th on the grid. Key then to get a good start, stay out of trouble around these modified new corners and try and punch up to the front as soon as possible. 5 minutes to go.
5 minutes to go before the start of round 10 of the Moto3 World Championship. And Jack Miller leads that championship by 19 points from Alex Marquez. So they're both on the front row of the grid. And just to make it absolutely right, the rider in 3rd place in the championship, Efren Vazquez, separates them on the front row of the grid. It is going to be a very interesting run down towards turn 1. But you get the feeling this is going to be a classic Moto3 race. Big groups of riders, and it will go probably down to that last lap. Good to see here, number 31, Nicholas Ayo, back in action.
Really luckless in many ways so far this year, but has put in a few very strong race performances indeed. He picked up an injury. That was also at the Dutch TT, but in the race itself, remember, ended up in the gravel trap there, took Isak Vinales off the track with him, has been recovering back home in Finland, missed the German Grand Prix, did not even travel to the Sachsenring, but at least he has had the summer break to recover as best as possible as we now come here to Indianapolis for the 10th of 18 rounds in the Moto3 World Championship this year. So Ayo lining up on the 5th row of the grid, just in front of Jakob Kornfall and Fimi Carrera. There's the very first Moto3 World Champion there, Sandro Cortese, perched up on the pit wall and took the title back in 2012.
Yeah, back to that 5th row of the grid, in the middle of the 5th row of the grid. He's qualified 14th fastest. It's Jakob Kornfall. No wins, no podiums for him, but he's a guy, if he makes a good start, can certainly run with that leading bunch. And I think you can say that about many of the riders in this race. So here we are, front row of the grid. It's Alex Marquez, Efren Vazquez. But his 6th pole position of the season, he's chasing his 5th victory of the season. In pole position here in Indianapolis, Australian Jack Miller. So welcome back to Indianapolis. I'm Nick Harris. Sitting alongside me, Gregory Haynes. Down in pit lane, Dylan Gray. We start with Moto3.
So it's the championship leader, Jack Miller, on his 6th pole position of the season. Vasquez alongside him as a married man now, and Marquez on the front row for the 4th consecutive race. Fenati, Guevara and Navarro make up a sensational second row. John McPhee pushed off the second row right at the death in the qualifying session. Bagnaia back in action, and Tanucci completing row 3.
Yeah, look out for row 4, Alex Rins in particular, and Alexei Masbou and Hanekom, all of them capable of getting up there with the front runners. A little bit further back, Miguel Oliveira, who've had podiums this season for him, and Danny Kent, who had a very good ride in the Saxon Ring. Further back, Antonelli back in action after a collarbone accident in training. Brad Binder, the South African, who had a 2nd place in the Saxon Ring, but finds himself down on row 7.
Yes, a brilliant performance in the Saxon Ring. 19th on the grid here, 19th birthday tomorrow as well for Brad Binder. We also saw Isak Vinales, who was the quickest rider in practice on Friday, but a problem in qualifying, finds himself 22nd on the grid. So watch out for Vinales coming through. Towards the back of the grid, then it's Asmi Ramos, who's carrying a collarbone injury after a crash yesterday, and Ana Carrasco completes a 33-rider, very crowded field for Moto3.
A wink then from Jack Miller to his team, to the camera, I'm not sure which. Valentino Rossi looks on. He wants to see how the lights at Indianapolis, but also supporting his 2 riders, that's Romano Fenati and Bagnaia. So here we go, their last look at the circuit. As they pass Dylan, we'll just let the noise go a little bit, and we'll have our last check about the weather there. Dylan, I think they're past you now. I think we're okay at the moment, aren't we?
Just about. No, look, it's absolutely fine here. I know there's talk about a threat of rain, but you know what? Yes, it feels humid, but looking at the weather map, looking at the skies, I do think that we're set for a dry race.
Air temperature 26 degrees centigrade, ground temperature 33 degrees centigrade, wind speed, very little wind at the moment. We've certainly seen it a lot more blustery than this, and certainly for Moto3, Jack Miller was saying yesterday that it was very difficult on that. He said the wind funnels down that main straight between those big towering grandstands. That doesn't appear that is going to be a problem. Now we have a look at some of the new sections of the circuit. They've all been resurfaced, but some of the bends have been opened out.
Yeah, this is the 3rd different variation of the Indianapolis road course. Obviously the bikes have always run in the same direction as the Indy cars, anti-clockwise, but as you say, some of the corners have been opened out. Indeed, turns 2, 3, 7 and also 15 and 16, which are the most notable and the easier to see towards the end of the lap. The whole of the infield section has a new surface. The start-finish straight is a different surface, including that historic yard of bricks, and all of the curbs around this infield section are new as well. 3.5 kilometres of new curbing have gone down, bi-directional curbs, and the riders generally have been extremely pleased with the new layouts. It might make overtaking a little bit more difficult because the corners are more flowing now, but the riders are enjoying it a lot more than they did this time last year.
Yeah, it was the service, 4 different surfaces, wasn't it, previously? It made life very difficult for the riders. That really has now been sorted out.
There's a comparison then of the old track and the new one. They used to take that longer loop, but it's a much quicker run now then through that right-hander there at 50. And there's the championship situation. Jack Miller a 19-point advantage then over Alex Marquez as Miller now gets back to the grid. Vasquez is 3rd in the championship from Fenati. And don't forget Alex Rins, he's 5th in the championship, 35 points behind Miller, but coming from 12th on the grid here.
This is Romano Fenati, starts on the 2nd row of the grid, chasing his 4th win of the season. Jack Miller is chasing his 5th win. Valentino Rossi looks on. Round 10, the 2014 Moto3 World Championship. 23 laps of the legendary Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Riders lining up, just checking how the lights will go when their race comes up. Stefan Bradl, we saw that. I think it was Dominic Egerter there as well, having a look for Moto2. Red flag still being shown.
Really
Car comes in, doesn't it, behind now to say we're ready to go. We're ready to rock and roll here at Indianapolis. It's the first race of the 3 World Championship program. We start with Moto3. It's round 10 of the Moto3 World Championship here at Indianapolis, and still the red flag is now being taken away. Jack Miller in pole, Efren Vasquez and Alex Marquez.
We are away. Good start for Miller. Moves straight across Vasquez, who did not get the best start off the line. Fenati dived across in front of Guevara. Marquez has dropped to 3rd position as they get to the first corner for the first time. Vasquez is thinking about Miller on the inside, thinks better of it. And there is the order. Then it's Miller still leading Marquez is attacking Vasquez, and Fanati's up the inside now into this new section. How are they all going to funnel through for the first time? It's clean so far, but it's edgy. Somebody running wide in the background. Look at Navarro, side by side there with John McPhee. There's contact. McPhee down, Io off, Masbu off as well. John McPhee down then into turn 4.
Oh, John McPhee down, Masbu going as well. Jack Miller takes full advantage. Miller opening up an advantage at the front as they come now down through turn 5, down towards 6. Fantastic start by Miller, and he pulled across, making sure nobody was going to get into turn 1 in front of him.
Yeah, Bagnaia did well to get off the line as well and keep out of any trouble into those first few corners. He started 8th, now finds himself 5th. Here he is, running ahead of Juan Fran Guevara. So John McPhee, the first retirement from the race by the looks of things, and it was Navarro who was up the inside of him. They touched at turn 4. Navarro still in the race. There is Guevara battling hard then with Bagnaia, and he is through. Navarro with the bike running wide in the background, and look who's ahead of him. It's Alex Rins. Alex Rins is fighting, don't forget, from 12th on the grid here.
Yeah, great start by Alex Rins, the race winner here last year, but that was from pole position. Vasquez now nicely poised. I don't think Miller will be at the breakaway at the front, but in those difficult first section, it's important to be at the front and stay out of trouble, and I think the crash of John McPhee illustrated that perfectly.
Small mistake by Binder as they came around the left-hander at turn 13. We saw him disappearing off to the left from that curb camera. He's lost a few places. Navarro is now in front of him. Through then to start lap 2, it's Miller. Vasquez, there's Marquez on the inside of Vasquez. Does not want Miller to get away. Fanati still 4th, but through. Marquez is up to 2nd ahead of Vasquez.
Classic overtaking manoeuvre here on the infield at Indianapolis. Alex Marquez up into 2nd place. There is Vasquez. Fanati's made a very good start from that 2nd row of the grid. He's had a difficult couple of races, the Italian. He has won 3 this season. There is Navarro, currently running in 8th place.
Yeah, Binder's just retaken him, in fact. So Binder had dropped back. We saw it, didn't we, at the end of the first lap. Binder then back ahead of Navarro and up into 8th. Bastianini is 10th. Tanucci was the leading Mahindra on the grid, don't forget. Strong qualifying, started 9th, but he's just dropped down to 16th place. So a poor start for Alessandro Tanucci, but what a great performance this is from Navarro. He's in the CEV Repsol Championship. He won the last race in that championship at Albacete in Spain, and here he finds himself then at Indianapolis running 9th.
That's the gap as they come down the back straight for the 2nd time. Alex Marquez in 2nd place, Vasquez right behind him. I don't think he'd be too unhappy about that, long as Miller doesn't get away at the front. Fanati very handily placed in 4th place. Super start by Guevara and Bagnaia, both of them youngsters, and Bagnaia in particular, you know, problems with that wrist. How long will that last? It may drop off as the race progresses.
Don't forget that incident we saw at turn 4 on the first lap. It was Navarro and McPhee. McPhee, as we know, crashed, was unable to rejoin the race. Also involved there were Io, who's now dropped down to 26th place, and Masbu, who's towards the tail end of the field, 31st position. So a nightmare scenario then for the Frenchman. No jump starts, that's good news. So there will be no ride-through penalties for jump starts.
First 4 quite happy in the situation as they come down the back straight. Vasquez, though, up the inside of Alex Marquez. That just helps Jack Miller at the front if they're going to keep swapping positions.
And Fanati now attacking. Mark, look at this, they've both passed Vasquez. So Vasquez drops from 2nd to 4th. Fanati up from 4th to 2nd, and Marquez effectively holding 3rd there.
Something to look out for, guys. Jorge Navarro is one of the few guys who's opted for the harder option rear tyre. Everyone else on the medium. In terms of the front tyre, it's Miguel Oliveira, one of the front runners. He's opted for the harder front. Everyone else for the medium.
That's interesting, they're swapping positions the way they are. I think in the end somebody would say just tuck in behind me and let's just run it, and just to make sure that Jack Miller doesn't get too far away at the front. Because while they do swap positions like this, it's just going to help Jack Miller at the front to try and open up a little bit of an advantage, although you've got to say, as they come down the back straight, down towards turn 10, there's not much of an advantage. Guevara is right in there with them, isn't he?
He really is, and all of this battling is really allowing him to stay in touch. Here's a replay then, into turn for the first time. Watch on the apex, Navarro, contact there. Down goes McPhee, off across the grass is Masbu, and also the green wheels there, that is Nicky O. They rejoined from the banking. Here's a perfect view of the incident. 4 riders involved. McPhee, they're both passing Io, but Navarro's on the inside. Touch, 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 all disappearing off the track. But it's McPhee, unfortunately, who's unable to rejoin the race. Navarro got away with that one, didn't he? He's still running right up there.
He did.
9th.
Okay, I don't know if John McPhee will agree, but he did get away with it, and he's done well not to lose any places. So this is the position at the front. A bit of a freight train at the moment. I'll tell you now, that will not remain the same. Marquez, quite comfortable in second place, but here comes Fenati once again. He likes taking two riders in one go, doesn't he, Romano Fenati? And that's exactly what he does. And Fenati up into second place, Marquez third, Vasquez fourth.
And Fenati doing a good job to close the door, and out of the race goes Gabriel Ramos. We already know he's suffering with an injured collarbone after a crash yesterday, and the Venezuelan retires then from the Indianapolis Grand Prix. Second retirement after John McPhee. Thankfully, though, he's on his feet and walking away, as you can see.
Yeah, no damage to I think the shoulder, the collarbone that he had before. So Fenati now bringing the pack along, and they are closing up on Jack Miller. And this will become, once again, one of these high-speed games of chess, won't it? And tactics will only really come into it in the last couple of laps, because they're all bunching up nicely. All the right people are in there. Good to see Brad Binder up there once again, the 18-year-old South African who finished second in the Saxon Ring. Fastest lap of the race from Alex Rins. Good to see him on the pace. Race winner here last year from pole position, of course, second in the World Championship this year. Hasn't found it so easy this season, but there's still 9 races to go.
And the fastest up on the previous lap was Brad Binder. So those two running together, Rins and Binder 6th and 7th. I said Rins needed to keep out of trouble from 12th on the grid. Well, he certainly did that. Did well to keep out of trouble. Now running then in 6th place. We've lost another rider from the race as well. That's Matteo Ferrari. He's gone down somewhere around the circuit, we're being told. So we're coming through then to start lap 5 of 23. 19 to go. It's Miller, Fenati, Marquez, but Vasquez there on the inside line. And now Fenati, they're all shooting past Miller. Look at this. He's dropped from 1st to 3rd in one move.
Tactical or not, I really don't know. Miller might just want to be happy to be down in the pack now. No, he hasn't broken them up.
Well, that's exactly what Miller was talking about with the wind funneling down here. If you're at the front, you're at a real disadvantage. So these guys are going to be learning every single lap in what position they're going to need to be when they come out of the final turn on the final lap.
I mean, it does seem, Dylan, that you really don't want to be leading the way coming down there on the final lap.
We're probably going to see loads of people braking very hard into 14, but no, it's going to be really interesting that last lap if they're all bunched up.
Don't forget it's different this year. Bagnaia off in the background, started this lap in 8th position, but he's run off the track as they came into the left-hander there at turn 8 before heading out onto the back straight. Bagnaia, it looks as though he's out of this race. Fenati then now leading the way. There is his teammate Bagnaia, but it's not been a great return to the championship. He's returning from injury, but clearly out of contention now this afternoon. But I was just about to say, that run to the line is different, don't forget, this year. It's about 50 metres earlier, turn 15, so it's a longer run to the line.
And as you say, the wind funnels through between those big towering grandstands. Fenati leads the way. Marquez, Miller has gone past Vasquez. It really doesn't matter at this stage, as long as nobody pulls away. They'll probably take a few turns at the front, but they will be sizing up the situation. They will be working out what they're going to do in those last 2 or 3 laps, and especially on the last lap. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be frantic. They might be saying, after you, going into that final corner, to have not wanted to lead the way where they are now.
I mean, look at it this time. There's 3 abreast here over the line. Vasquez is in the lead. They need to be careful not to touch, though, because that can be another problem when you're experimenting to see in which position you might need to be later in the race. But, of course, behind you've got other guys who've got nothing to lose in many sense. The likes of Guevara right in there in 5th position. He's looking for a first Grand Prix podium finish. At the moment, then, it's still Fenati from Vasquez, Miller, and the 2 Estrella Galicia riders. They're able to maybe help each other because Rins is up another place. He's ahead of Guevara now and right behind Marquez. So it's Marquez 4th, Rins 5th, then Guevara, and then Brad Binder at the back of this group.
Yeah, it's a group of 7, isn't it? I would imagine that is going to be the group of 7 that are going to contest this. Will any drop out before those vital last 2 or 3 laps? Fenati putting down the hammer a little bit at the front, but nobody's going to get away. They're so aware of the situation of the rider at the front. In some ways, I think they're quite happy for different riders to take their turn at the front. Miller in the pack now, just thinking it out. Right, this is going to be the situation with a couple of laps to go. Where do I want to be? Where are the best places to overtake? And what am I going to do when I come into that final corner and are faced by that long straight and that funneling wind?
How many times have we seen situations like this year? Le Mans springs to mind, doesn't it, in Moto3? What an amazing battle that was. And also Mugello, the race after that. But for now then, They're all being sensible. Binder's ahead of Guevara as well, so Binder now is up into 6th position. Guevara, here he is, drops to 7th. Oliveira is still 8th on the Mahindra. Then it's Cornfile, Bastianini. Navarro has lost a few places now, dropped back into 11th place. Haneker is 12th from Vinales. Good start from Vinales then to be running in 13th place from 22nd on the grid. And now he's running in 12th place because Bastianini seems to be in some sort of trouble. His name is plummeting down the timing screen.
Yeah, Miller just having a look, wasn't he, at turn 1, just thinking, right, what it's going to be like when we're actually on that last lap. Fenati in 2nd place, constantly swapping at the front, constantly sorting out the conditions, thinking what they're going to be doing at the end of the race. Guevara, I suppose, is the only one with a lack of experience at this sort of level. Binder, you would have said, was, but Binder finished a brilliant 2nd in the previous round at the Sachsenring after a superb race with Miller. So he knows what it's all about. So all of them are pretty savvy in this situation. Whereas probably doing exactly the right thing, just hanging there in 7th place at the back of the grid.
There's Matteo Ferrari in trouble. We know he is out of the race from earlier on. That looks like the exit of turn 4 out across those new bi-directional curves and out of the race. Now, look at this for a situation. We've got the Tour Estrella Galicia riders now sandwiching Efren Vasquez. It's interesting tactics, though, isn't it, from Miller? He's dropped himself back into the pack for a couple of laps, seeing where the others are stronger, where they're weaker, where can I get in the run and in the line out of the final corner to get in that toe down the start-finish straight, and now places himself back at the front of the pack, which I'm sure he feels is the safest place to be right now.
Very clever riding by Jack Miller. Sorting out every situation, just working it out. I know I keep saying it, but it is a game of chess, and they're just waiting to make those big moves, and those big moves are not going to come till the last couple of laps of the race. We can get all excited now, and the people could be overtaking each other. We could think this, that, and everything else. They're just sizing it up for the battle royal that will be the last 2 laps.
Yes, Miller clearly trying to just keep himself out of any trouble. That's why he's placing himself nearer the front of this group than in the middle. Look at Vasquez and Marquez getting very close to each other. There is no point whatsoever in trying to win the race at this point, because it certainly won't happen. As you're saying, Nick, they need to just analyse the situation. John McPhee, unfortunately, reduced to the role of spectator. Don't forget, it was a collision with Jorge Navarro at only the 4th corner of the race. All the way to Indianapolis and out at the 4th corner.
Nightmare, isn't it? John McPhee can do is pack his bag and get over to the Czech Republic and hope for a little bit better luck.
So regarding Bastianini, we noticed his name was dropping right down. He is running in 20, here he is in fact, he's running in 16th position. I think we're about to find out what happened to the Italian. We know he was, there he is, up onto the 9-degree banking in the background. So that's why he lost a hatful of places.
He's had a good start to his career, hasn't he? A 2nd place already in just his 9 Grand Prix for him. Yet another very, very talented young Italian. Marno Fenati was a very talented young Italian when he came into Moto3. Won that 2nd race, he's leading the way. Brad Binder, 18 years old now, Brad Binder. You say it's his birthday coming up?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow, so 19 years old tomorrow. A brilliant 2nd place for the South African in the previous round in Germany.
Right, place your bets. Who will be leading as they come out of the turn 1, 2, 3, 4 section?
Alex Marquez.
It's almost 5 abreast as they get down there. And look at this, Navarro, Oliveira and Cornfile are battling, and this is further back for 8th, 9th and 10th positions. They're obviously some way behind that group. They're over 3 seconds behind the Magnificent 7 at the front, which is still, as you say correctly, Marquez leading out of turn 4 from Miller, Fenati, Rins, Binder, Vasquez and Guevara. I wonder how Juan Fran Guevara is feeling to be running up there in 7th place. Pretty exciting, and the same goes for this man, number 99 there, Jorge Navarro, right up behind Oliveira and Cornfile.
It's great experience for Navarro, isn't it? He's riding with 2 very experienced men with Cornfile and obviously Miguel Oliveira, podium finisher on the Mahindra. Back at the front, it's still Alex Marquez that leads away. Nobody's being dropped at the moment. Nobody's doing anything silly at the moment. Be very surprised if anybody did anything silly at this stage of the race. Jack Miller says, let's just have a little look here to just see what the situation might be.
Alex Rins is quietly, calmly making his way closer to the front of the field all the time, isn't he? He's running into 3rd place now. Miller moves back in front of Marquez. These two Estrella Galicia riders need to be very careful indeed. They may be able to help each other here in some ways, but they need to be careful not to take each other out of the race. It's still Miller, then the two Estrella Galicias, then it's Fenati. And Vasquez hasn't really made any dramatic moves yet, has he, so far? That's interesting.
He's a new man, isn't he, Efren Vasquez? A year ago, he'd have been scrapping it out at the front there, up the inside, up the outside, but he's biding his time as he chases that first Grand Prix win. Yes, of course, Alex Rins crashed out very early on in the race in Germany, didn't he, in the previous round? So, yeah, he has placed himself really well. I think he's up into second place now. He actually leads the way, runs in a bit wide, but hangs in there. So Alex Rins, he won the race here last year from pole position, and he leads here this time round as Fenati rides around the outside, Jorge Lorenzo style.
Miller dropping back further than he has done at any other point so far in the race. Finds himself now, after leading down the start-finish straight, in 6th place as they exit turn 4. So this is a good opportunity to look at the positives here as to where he may gain ground on these others. But Miller then finds himself just in front of Guevara there in 6th place. And we have, for the first time today, an Estrella Galicia 1-2 at the front of the field. He's making progress further back, by the way. Bastianini, we know he dropped down to 16th place. He's picked off his teammate, Nicolo Antonelli, and he's now up into 13th position.
Well, this is a really good ride by Binder again. You know, he's had that second place to follow it up, to be running with the leaders once again. Here is Vasquez. Just comes into line astern in many ways as Binder moves up through. And this looks like Nicholas Ayo in trouble once again.
Well, he's already been off the track once this afternoon, and this time it's certainly over. The other rider who went off with him, by the way, Alexei Masbu, remember, he was right at the back of the field. He's now all the way up into the top 10. That's an absolutely amazing ride then from Masbu, who qualified well here as well to qualify 11th. That was a damage limitation exercise after a problem.
Crashed early in the session.
So that's quite
This
remarkable.
leading group would be very pleased that Alexei Masbu was in there, because he doesn't play by the rules in this situation, and he'll just blast his way through. Unfortunately, he's not close enough to catch this leading 7. It's going to be between these 7. To pick a winner is very, very difficult indeed. Guevara, you've got to say, if you've got a podium finish in this sort of company, would be absolutely fantastic performance by him.
Imagine how much he's learning as well, to be battling here with the likes of Fenati, Vasquez, Miller and co. Amazing stuff. It's a real masterclass then for Juan Guevara, Dylan.
No, but just also think towards the end of the race, remember, Navarro is on that harder option rear tyre, so he might find an extra little bit of pace. And also Oliveira, he's the only one who's gone one harder on the front in that leading group. So again, that could be very interesting, especially in the braking zones. Oliveira might find himself with just a slight advantage.
You look at this leading 7 and you try to think, who's really looking comfortable? Who looks very much in command? And I got to say, all 7 of them look very comfortable at the moment. Nobody's doing anything silly. It's not the silly time of the race yet. That will come, I absolutely assure you. So Rins leads away from Marquez, Vasquez, Fenati. Then it's Miller, Binder, and Guevara. All of them taking their turns at the front, having a look at what's going on, just building up, storing up the information. I suppose you've got to look to the really experienced men. But Binder might not have that experience, but he pushed Miller all the way in Germany. Guevara, you've got to say, he's got absolutely nothing to lose, is he? He's just going to go for it, isn't he? Others may be thinking about championship points. Vasquez, number 7, you see, 3rd place. I mean, he's chasing that first Grand Prix win. It so nearly came at Le Mans with an unbelievable bit of overtaking by Jack Miller, wasn't it? Just, 3 bends from the end. Pushed Vasquez out and Miller went on to win the race.
It's a titanic battle raging further back as well between Kornfall, who's now back up into 8th place. Oliveira is 9th for Masbu, Navarro, Haneke. They're all battling further back, but they're about 3 seconds down the road from this group who are at the front of the field. So we'll keep a very close tab indeed on just what the gap is between this lot and the others behind them. It's 3.5 seconds though at the moment. It's increased slightly.
Yeah, this is turn 14. Galicia riders. 42 is Alex Rins, who won here last year. Alex Marquez, number 12. And at this point, when this was taken, it's Brad Binder, look. Mahindra powered machine, number 41.
This will be an absolutely critical corner, won't it, towards the end of the race, turn 14. One of those long left-handers into the final section. It'll all start coming out of around turns 10, 11, won't it? They'll be sizing each other up, trying to run behind somebody perhaps through 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then get the run out of the toe down the start-finish straight. For the record for now then, with just over 11 to go here at Indianapolis, it is a 23-lap race. The two Estrella Galicias are leading at the front. Then it's Fenati, and Miller at the moment then finds himself back in 6th place. There's Guevara on the red bike. This is a superb performance. Look at that. Blink and you miss them.
Miller's riding a canny old racer, isn't he? He's had a look at it from almost every situation. Nearly the back of the group, the middle of the group, at the front. He would have certainly worked out a strategy. But as I say, Alex Marquez, 3 Grand Prix wins, or 2 this year, isn't it? 1 last year. Rins runner-up in the championship. You all know what they're at. Fenati, 3 wins this season.
Look at Guevara on the inside line on the red.
Well, he's the man. He's got nothing to lose, Guevara, but he's learning so much running with them. I'm sure he's not going to take too many risks just yet. Last couple of laps, the sparks are going to fly, aren't they? The gloves come off in those last couple of laps.
Yeah, Miller getting stuck right in there as well. Somebody's off there. That's Navarro. That was Navarro at the top of the picture. Briefly led the race because he's outbraked himself at turn 1. Look at the name down the left-hand side of the timing sheet there. He's dropped right down then to what is now being shown as back up to 11th place because he missed turn 1. Almost rejoined the track alongside the leaders, and he's come back on there in front of Karel Hanneke. So they'll decide amongst themselves whether they believe he was in front or behind. He was in 11th, wasn't he?
No, yeah, hasn't gained a position going into that turn. He was in front of Karel Hanneke. So I don't know what the exact rule is, but you know he's filtered back in the exact same place.
And they go down towards turn 10, 10 and a half laps to go. This is round 10 of the Moto3 World Championship, and this could have been any of the opening 9 rounds. We're so used to seeing this, and it's well worth waiting, because when it explodes, it will explode. Somebody may try to get away, but I don't think that's going to happen. And with that wind and that slipstreaming, there he is, Navarro, just testing out the world-famous Indy banking.
The 9-degree banking on the outside. Tanucci, by the way, has just crashed but rejoined the race. That's a shame for Tanucci. He was the leading Mahindra on the grid. He started 9th. Mazbu is catching this lot. Look at number 10. That's amazing. In fact, this could become a 10-rider battle before we know it.
Now, the fun and games will start if Alexei Mazbu gets there, I can promise you, because he doesn't like this. Let's wait and see, does he? He'll just plough straight into the pack and start upsetting the apple cart. So best laid plans may go right if Mazbu gets there, and he is pushing very, very hard indeed. They want to be sensible of these 3 as well, don't they? They just want to stay the way they are because they've really helped each other to run along. But it's interesting now because perhaps the people at the front will feel they've dropped the pace just a little bit too much, and somebody's got to push on a bit. They wouldn't have wanted 3 riders to join them, there's no doubt about that.
Can't quite believe how quickly that gap did come down there. It was 3.5 seconds just a few minutes ago, but they've worked very well together, haven't they? The likes of Mazbu, Oliveira and Cornwell. They know what they're doing. They're all experienced riders, and it is now then a 10-rider fight at the front of this race. Best of the rest, if you like, is Navarro. Hanneke still 12th from back in Indy.
Mazbu is at the back of the group now. Stand by for the fireworks.
Are all these 10 riders going to finish the race? I wonder. Bagnaia, then, we know he's been off and rejoined earlier on, and now in the pit lane.
This is teammate Mano Fenati that leads the way. 9.5 laps to go. This is classic Moto3. Another breathtaking finish in prospect.
And what's this? Is
Tanucci
this market? Sorry, Dylan, go ahead.
Sorry, guys. No, Tanucci now also come back into pit lane after his crash.
That's a shame for Tanucci because he qualified so well, didn't he? A little bit of a moment there, a little bit of fairing, banging going on. It's 10 laps to go, 9 laps to go now. It's not going to get too friendly now, I can promise you. Everybody's been quite friendly so far. That will start to dissipate, and the sparks will start to fly. Jack Miller thinks, right, it's a bit of a warning perhaps. Perhaps I need to get out at the front. And perhaps the pace hasn't been quick enough, and we've let those 3 join the group.
It was turn 3 where we saw that contact being made between Marquez and Miller. I think we saw it live actually a few moments ago when we were looking down from the helicopter. This could be one of those hero or zero situations, I think. Fenati leading the way at the moment, then it's Miller. The 2 Estrella Galicia riders fight together.
Mazbu, is he through on Guevara?
Yes,
he is. So Mazbu now joining this leading 5, and he won't stand on any ceremony. He'll be straight into them, cut straight into the heart of them. This will be fun.
And that's an interesting one as well, the top speed statistics, but that's all to do with the toe, don't forget as well, down the start, finish straight. For the record then, it is Guevara who's quickest through the speed track at the moment. Let's just stress what an amazing ride this is for Alexei Masbou. Yes, he lined up 11th on the grid, but he was involved in that incident at turn 4 on the opening lap. He dropped right to the back of the field, and here we are then, half race distance now, and he's right up there fighting in the leading group. It is an absolutely astounding ride.
8.5 laps to go. Fanati leads, Miller's second, Vasquez third, Marquez, Rins, Alexei Masbou, Guevara. And there's Jakob Kornfeld, who's done a very good job to hang in on that back of the 3-man group, now to join the top 7 at the front. Oliveira and Brad Binder.
Isaac Vinales has lost some ground. Don't forget, he's fighting from 22nd on the grid. He's dropped back a bit though now to 20th place. Into turn 1 yet again, then 8 laps to go now, and Masbou is side by side with Efren Vasquez. Miller's in the mix as well. Miller and Masbou. This could be a very interesting combination indeed. It's still Fanati at the front of the pack. Masbou now around the outside of Jack Miller, now on the inside of turn 4, and he's through. Masbou goes 4th.
As I said, he's not interested in the let's wait to the last 2 laps and see what's going to happen and what's going to happen with the slipstream, what have you. He would just get stuck straight into them. There is a chance that perhaps, you know, the leading 3 or people could get away if they really start swapping positions too much. But that would be the championship positions we stand at the moment, but that is so fluid that it's difficult to think about the championship at this stage. And I don't believe the likes of Jack Miller, Alex Marquez, Efren Vasquez think about the championship now. They're just thinking about the race. They're just thinking about these last couple of laps. Here comes Masbou trying to get up the inside of Rins, not quite able to do so.
They need to bear this in mind, don't they, those who are battling for the championship. Brian Shoughton's in some sort of trouble, and he's been now, we're told, rejoining this race. Remember, Shoughton was involved in that rather amusing incident with his Dutch countryman Scott Drew and also Luca Grunwald on the second lap of the German Grand Prix.
A few fisticuffs were shown, and I think it made more coverage, didn't it, throughout the world with that rather than the racing itself, which is a bit unfortunate. Fanati leads the way, 7.5 laps to go.
Masbou then right in there. Over the line they come. Look at this. 10 riders battling for the lead then here at Indianapolis. They'll come over the line now. Just listen to how close they are together.
Down that start and finish straight over half a mile long. Here comes Alexei Masbou. He may have been almost last with that crash up the first bend, but the veteran Frenchman now leads the way. They know now that they have got to take the boxing gloves. Well, they've got to put the boxing gloves off, I think. They've just got to get bare knuckle fight now. Alexei Masbou's at the front. The fun and games are going to start.
Perfect demonstration of the slipstream at Indianapolis. Goodbye to Marquez, Rins and Fanati all in one move. Masbou from right at the back of the field at the start of the race is in the lead then with 7 laps to go. Here's a great fight going on as well. The Mahindra here of Miguel Oliveira. He's in front of Guevara, and brilliant stuff from Guevara. He's been up in this lead group, maintaining that pace all race long so far. At the tail end of the group at the moment then, we've got Binder and also Kornfeld.
Just a quick update. It was Bagnaia. We know that he didn't take the lead crash. He'd run on. So I just went to find out why he's now had to come back in, even though he was out there. It was basically a problem in the braking that made him run on in the first place, and that persisted throughout. So that's why it was safer for him to retire, unfortunately.
Fortunate for him on his comeback ride, but we have a new race leader. It's Alex Marquez. Masbou second, Rins third, Fanati, Vasquez, Miller. All those brains are working overtime in those crash helmets, just working out what they are going to do. And as you say, it was the perfect illustration when Masbou took the lead, wasn't it? What can happen? You get in a group coming down that start and finish straight, you can outbrake and get there.
And space is going to be another issue. Yes, you could win the race from being 5th or 6th at the final corner, but you need to find the space, don't you, to get through on those around you. So into turn 1 this time, Masbou back in front of Marquez, and now the tension is really starting to build. Only 6 of the 23 laps to go. It's getting tight every single time, isn't it, into this modified turn 2, 3, 4 section. Miller just holding station at the moment in 5th position. He's not challenging Romano Fanati. Now he will, though, on the exit of 4. Don't forget, 10 riders. So many points could potentially be lost if a mistake is made and somebody runs wide.
Well, that's the other thing to think about, isn't it? Okay, everybody wants to win the race, but there's a lot of World Championship points at stake. I honestly don't think that goes through their minds, though, with 5.5 laps to go. I think they're just now concentrating. Obviously, Alexei Masbou, Efren Vasquez have never won a Grand Prix. Had a great ride, Masper. He was on the podium in the Saxon Ring. He's having a 27-year-old Frenchman. He is the veteran of this class, but he is in superb form, and he's always so exciting. And again, he's got nothing to lose as Miller just eases up the inside of Fanati at turn 10. Fanati repays the compliment into 11.
And a massive shake at the head then from Jack Miller. He does make his feelings very visual, doesn't he? Romano Fanati in front of him. Remember what happened to the final corner of the Grand Prix of Argentina. Fanati barged through. There was contact, pushed Miller out wide, and Fanati went on to win that race. It was his first race win of the season. This will be absolutely critical in about 5 laps time. This run out of the final corner, turn 16. How much curb will they all take? Taking plenty on this particular replay, but just look how many of them there are together. That is the battle for the lead of this race. We have 5 laps to go. We're now starting lap 19 of 23 then at Indianapolis.
Change at the front. As Marcus is back in front. Masper comes in behind him. Rins in third. Jack Miller in 4th place. Then Fanati. Fanati likes to go around the outside here, then try to nip back in, doesn't he, round at the left-hander. He didn't actually do it this time round. What must be going through their heads at this stage? Can anybody just break it up a little bit? They may be in the lead, the likes of Monvara, perhaps a little bit at the back, Jakob Kornfeld. But I think all the others are very capable of running at this pace, and the pace will be upped in these last few laps.
I wonder what Kornfeld's thinking as well, sat in 10th place at the tail end of this group. I wonder where he'll finish this race. 10th at the moment then for Jakob Kornfeld, the Czech driver. He's been in Croatia on holiday during the off-season, but look at that, bottom of the screen, position progression to say the very least then for Alexis Masber. Was off track, involved in an incident that was not his fault at turn 4 on the opening lap of the race. He's charged through, he's leading the race here at Indy. It is one of the rides of the season without a shadow of a doubt so far.
31st to 1st, isn't it?
It is a 30-place rise.
That is extraordinary. 4.5 laps to go. Here we go then. If you're sitting in your seat, stand up now, because the fun and games are really going to start.
Now, where's the rest of the pack, you may be wondering? Well, they're 4 seconds in arrears, and Bastianini, who went off earlier and rejoined, is now running in 11th place. Danny Kent is 12th from Haneke. Navarro's dropped back, so perhaps that harder tyre not really paying off for Navarro on this occasion. Carrera is currently completing the point scorers in 15th place, and almost a touch in there, or maybe there even was a touch there between Marquez and Miller. 6 abreast.
6 abreast they come in, and it's Vasquez that now leads the way from Fanati. Without a doubt, they are all testing the slipstreaming, aren't they, for that run to the line. Dylan, come on, you're the technical man.
Do you know what?
What do you do in this situation?
Well, do you know what? This for me is going to be a mental thing, because I think there'll be some people trying to slow down into 14 so that they don't have to exit first and can get a slipstream. But someone might be very clever and just go in there absolutely full whack and actually pull up enough of a lead so that they won't get slipstream. This is going to be a little bit of luck and a little bit of mental strength, to be honest.
Wow. Well, we got a foretaste of it then, just with the replay of going to turn 1 the previous lap. And that time it was Efren Vasquez that took full advantage, although I think it's Fanati that now leads the way. Vasquez and Miller, Rins, Masbu. It's hard to pick out exactly where they are because they're constantly swapping positions. 3.5 laps to go, round 10 of the Moto3 World Championship. They never let you down, do they? They never, ever let you down. The only thing, the problem is, I have no voice left after Moto3. We've still got Moto2 and MotoGP to go.
It's incredibly unfair on the commentary team, isn't it, that Moto3 is first on the agenda on the Sunday afternoon. But no, we shouldn't complain. We saw the replay. Marquez and Miller, I don't think they quite touched, but it was mighty, mighty close. Vasquez, by the way, was 6th as they crossed the line last time. It took 5 riders on the inside of Turn 1. But don't forget, Turn 1 will be irrelevant on the last lap. They need to be ahead when they cross that finish line.
I don't mean to be gloomy, but we are getting some very, very light spots of rain down here. I don't think it's going to affect this race, but just so you know, it does look to be starting ever so slightly.
Oh dear, no, I think this race will probably be safe. We won't look ahead to Moto2 yet. Vasquez, well, I'd say Vasquez just leads away. Fanati round the outside again. When they flick it left, he would try and get back up the inside. He's just done that, but Vasquez now leads the way. 3 laps to go. What are they going to do? I really don't know what the tactics are going to be. I think Dylan got it spot on. Slow it up or go absolutely at it to try and break it up.
Where do you look, though? It's difficult to know where to look, isn't it? The first time I saw a spot on the camera lens was just the lap before, and it was at turn 4. So Dylan just confirmed
I wouldn't
that.
worry. I
no,
wouldn't
let's
worry
hope
about
not.
the rain.
No, it's so light.
It's so light.
It's so fine. It's not even staying on the ground. But as we know, sometimes can have a little bit of a mental effect if it gets onto the rider's visors.
Yeah, Moto3 2.5 laps ago. I don't think spots of rain are going to worry them, to be really honest with you. Vasquez leads the way, the 27-year-old rider from the Basque Country of Spain, and chasing his first ever Grand Prix victory.
Yes, Rins is the man in second place at the moment, so it's Vasquez, Rins, Fenati, Miller. Oliveira's up there now in 5th position. Oliveira has fought at the front already this year. Don't forget the Qatar Grand Prix was up there at Mugello as well. Still 10 riders locked together then at the front of this race. And further back, quick mention also for Carrera, who's on course for a point at the moment. We're going to have to forget that now, I'm afraid, because we have only 2 laps to go, and we have a 10-rider battle at the front of the field.
2 to go here, round 10 of the championship. Down the start and finish straight down towards turn 1. Fenati, one would imagine, will lead the way. What do I know? Alex Rins leads the way. Fenati second, Vasquez third. Miller right in there. Now this is where you've got to start baring your teeth. I mean, this is where you've got to show your knuckles, because it's it. This is it. There's no thinking about what's going to happen in the future. There is 1 3/4 laps to go. And picking out a race winner here is going to be very difficult. Fenati, I think, is trying to break it up at the front.
This is the left-hand for turn 5 through into 6. And look at Masbro looking very racy indeed on the inside there, but thankfully thinking better of it at the front of the field. Then there he is, Romano Fenati. Rins is still second, and don't forget Alex Rins. That's a superb performance as well, because he started this race from 12th on the grid.
1.5 laps to go, round 10 of the Moto2 World Championship. It's a nervous time back in the garages. They fan out across the track. Fenati still leads. Rins second. Vasquez, Marquez up the inside there of a Jack Miller into turn 11.
How will they play this time then? Around the sequence of left-handers, the long corners at 12, 13, 14, and then into the final corner. Who will lead over the line this time? But let's see what they do around this section of the track on the final lap. So, Fenati for now, from Rins, from Vasquez, and then don't forget the championship leader is Jack Miller, and he's side by side with Marquez. Marquez, the only man other than Miller who could lead the standings at the end of the day.
Through turn 16, is this a rehearsal for what is going to happen on the very last lap? Lap 1, 1 to go for Alex Rins. Fenati leads the way. 1 lap remaining of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Vasquez leads the way to turn 1. Fenati round the outside now takes over the lead. Fenati, Vasquez. Tell Miguel Oliveira flying, as is Jack Miller. Miller now knows it is the moment. But is it the moment because he has got Alexei Masbou alongside him?
That was important stuff though for Miller there. He's muscled past both of the Estrella Galicia riders. Masbou right behind him. Is Masbou in front of Jack Miller as we look down from the helicopter? Yes, he is. That did not work out completely well then for Miller. The 2 Estrella Galicias right behind him.
They've opened up a bit of an advantage at the front, Vasquez and Fenati. That is not going to be so easy to pull back with less than a lap to go. Romano Fenati chasing his 4th Grand Prix win of the season. Efren Vasquez, his very first Grand Prix win in his career.
Miller's moved back in front of Masbou. This is the run down the back straight. Masbou's closing in, and at the front, Vasquez is closing in. And is he passing on the inside, Romano Fenati? No, Fenati's got great grip and poise and confidence around the outside line.
Miller's hauled them back in, isn't he? Miller has hauled them back in. There still is a gap. It's Masbou behind Miller. Romano Fenati, he's obviously decided, go for it. And slipstreaming, we'll worry about that when we get there. 1/4 of a lap to go, round 10 of the championship.
The race could be won and lost right here around these left-handers then. Now they've got to position themselves very well indeed for the right-left flick through 15 and 16 for the final time. There is Marquez right behind Rins, but back at the front, out wide goes Marquez. Fenati right behind him, Vasquez, and then Miller number 8.
So can Fenati stay at the front? Here comes Efren Vasquez. Efren Vasquez wins his first ever Grand Prix. Romano Fenati in second place, Jack Miller third, Alexei Masbou 4, Alex Rins, Alex Marquez, Miguel Oliveira, Guevara, great ride by him, Brad Binder 9, Jakob Kornfeld 10. But the 27-year-old from the Basque Country in Spain wins his first ever Grand Prix race.
First race as a married man, and he is a Grand Prix winner for the first time. Perfect stuff then for Efren Vasquez. There he is alongside his former teammate Miguel Oliveira. What a race also from Guevara up there in 8th position. But he really was a sitting duck, wasn't he, Romano Fenati? There was nothing he could have done there out of the final corner, and Vasquez timed it to perfection. We've been saying that all through practice, all weekend. The run out of that final corner will win or lose this race. And it all started, in fact, in the previous corners, didn't he? He chose not to pass Fenati at the end of the back straight, remember, and followed him around those last few corners.
Not a disaster for Jack Miller, though, 3rd place, because his championship contender, so Vasquez is one, but his big championship contender is Alex Marquez, and he has finished in 6th place, and Miller has finished 3 places in front of him. If anybody deserved a Grand Prix victory, I'd say, after this season, it is Efren Vasquez. He was so close in Le Mans, now he's done it. Well done, Romano Fenati, as well. Yeah, boy, that must be frustrating when you lead coming out of the final bend, just knowing that probably you're not going to win the race.
Now, the top 4 in the championship coming into this race were separated by 32 points. That will decrease now. Jack Miller then started on pole, finishes on the podium yet again, and he is extremely satisfied, I think it is fair to say, because he knows that could have been a heck of a lot worse with 10 riders battling for the lead. Here then is the championship situation, and wow, it certainly has decreased. It's 28 points now, covering the top 4 as opposed to 32 coming into the race. And critically then, Vasquez is now Miller's closest challenger, jumps ahead of Marquez for 2nd in the championship. Here's where it was won or lost, though certainly won in the case of Vasquez. In the background we saw Marquez out wide, but just look how he sucked along there. Vasquez positions the bike beautifully, moves out, easy.
Looks easy from up here, doesn't it? You've got to be patient. But Romano Fenati, great ride in 2nd place, as you say. Miller increasing his lead in the World Championship. The 2 disappointed riders, I would imagine, Alex Rins in 5th place, but Alex Marquez in 6th. And, well, Vasquez is going to make the headlines, but Alexei Masbu, what a ride by him, down in 31st place after an incident on that very first lap. And here we find him finishing 4th.
And here's Marquez out over those curbs, those new curbs at the end of the lap. So lost any chance there to take a few points away from his teammate Alex Rins, and that has hurt Marquez in the championship now, because he's dropped behind Vasquez, as we said, to 2nd place. So superb stuff. Number 7 takes the victory. That's another Honda victory then, and they close in on KTM. It's tight in the championship, 23 points then. KTM still leads the constructors, Honda is 2nd.
Oh, what some fortunes for Racing Team Germany. John McPhee going down in the 2nd bend, and a win for Efren Vasquez.
Fenati, he'll be pleased with that, won't he? He lost points in the German Grand Prix, failed to finish there, and this man certainly is absolutely delighted. He really did deserve that one, didn't he? Remember, he took pole position in his 111th Grand Prix start at Le Mans, challenged Miller and lost out, dropped to 6th in that race from the Basque Country in the north of Spain. That's not bad, is it, Nick? Get married, win your first Grand Prix.
What a performance. That's Dirk Heydoff, the man behind Dirk Heydoff, the team manager of Racing Team Germany, celebrating their first Grand Prix victory and the first Grand Prix victory for Efren Vasquez. It's going to be interesting on the podium. 27 years old, you're all right. You can drink alcohol. Unfortunately, poor Romano Fenati and Jack Miller will be on the soft drinks on the podium, because we're in America and they're not old enough to drink alcohol. So there is an advantage of being 27 sometimes. Enjoy it, Efren Vasquez. You deserve it.
Nice to see Fenati and Miller there, just digesting the events of that race. That certainly wasn't the case after Argentina, was it?
No, it wasn't, no. It was a pretty clean old battle, actually, in the end, wasn't it? There you go. Efren Vasquez wins his first ever Grand Prix. Romano Fenati in 2nd place. Championship leader Jack Miller increasing that lead in the championship. What a ride by Alexei Masbu. 31st at the end of the first lap, up into 4th place. Alex Rins, who won last year. Alex Marquez. Miguel Oliveira. Juan Van Guevara. That was a superb ride by him. And it was a Brad Binder in 9th place.
And happy birthday to Brad Binder, 19 tomorrow. Jakob Cornfeld then completed the top 10. Bastianini fought back up from an off earlier on to finish 11th, completing the points. Danny Kent, Haneke, Navarro, very, very strong return to the World Championship from a 2nd row grid slot. Could have been so much better. Perhaps the tyre choice didn't go his way. Famu Carrera picked up the final point, and Isaac Vinales, Antonetti as well for that matter, they could not pick up points. Vinales was fighting through from 22nd on the grid, and we just saw there a few of the retirements. 6 riders failed to finish this race. McPhee, Ferrari, Ramos, Ayo, Tanucci and Bagnaia.
There we go. He has increased his lead into the World Championship by 2 points. I think it was 19 points in front, wasn't he, of Alex Marquez. So Miller now leads by 21 points after 10 rounds. Vasquez moves into second place. Alex Marquez relegated to third, but just 4 points between them. Romano Fenati fourth. He's only 7 points down on Efren Vasquez. Alex Rins 5. Masbu moving up a place into 6th place in the championship.
Rins has lost a further 5 points then to the championship leader. Finds himself now 40 points behind with 8 Grand Prix to go, starting in the Czech Republic next weekend. That'll be a home Grand Prix then for Jakob Kornfall, who completes the top 10 in the World Championship. John McPhee, very, very unfortunate incident at turn 4 on the opening lap. Don't forget it was contact between McPhee and Jorge Navarro. Navarro continued, was running up there in the top 10, finished 14th in the end. McPhee was out on the spot, and we also saw Ayo off in the incident. He would later retire from the race. But Alexei Masbu was the 4th and final rider involved in that particular coming together. Dropped right down to 31st place and shot straight up to the lead of the race at one point, and eventually finishes 4th.
There you go. That's a nice start to the proceedings, isn't it? We're pretty used to that start, the proceedings starting like that. That was a classic Moto3 race. And the length of the start and finish straight is so important. When we get short runs to the line, obviously the tactics change. There is Alexei Masbu. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He could be happy with a brilliant ride, but he must be thinking, if only that hadn't happened, what may have happened in the race when I can ride my way through the field. You've got to say, he would have won the race, but you also have to think that when you're running in the pack like that, it's not quite the same, is it? And there was a lot of tactics and a lot of thought going into what was going to happen in those last couple of laps.
And that was the replay there of how he fell back to 31st position in this field. It was the very first lap of the race, into turn 4 for the first time, and we were saying, will somebody be caught out coming out of that modified turn 3 and into 4, and they certainly were. It was Navarro McPhee who connected. Masbu was one of the 2 riders who ran off across the grass. Part of that as well was the very, very quick recovery. We saw Ayo right up on the banking. Masbu got back on as quickly as he could as well, but was 31st at one point. Alex Rins, well, good and bad. The good was he came through from 12th on the grid to finish 5th, so he's obviously pleased about that, as you can see. But the bad is he's lost those further 5 points, now 40 behind the World Championship leader, Jack Miller. Having said that, though, Nick, there's still 200 points left on offer this year.
Well, we've got 8 rounds to go, and the next round very quick after this one. We're in the Czech Republic for round 11 of the championship. What a race. And it was so typical Moto3. So Jack Miller on the podium, but he has increased his lead in the World Championship.
Well, Jack, entertaining fight throughout. I think in the last lap they seemed to just pull a tiny little bit of a gap, but still happy with third?
Yeah, definitely happy, you know, to bring home the maximum points we could today. I felt I could have done better, but yeah, a little bit of confusion at turn 2 on the last lap, and it just made a little gap, but I managed to close it up enough to be able to use that draft down the straight, so I didn't get overtaken. So really happy with the podium today for sure, but would have much preferred the victory for sure. But you know, here for 2 KTMs to be on the podium here has been really good, because as you saw, there was a lot of Hondas in that front group, and all of them were going really fast. So you know, really, like I say, really happy for the result, and to take home points for the championship was really good also.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Jack.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. Obviously, all the riders want to win the races, but to increase your lead in the championship and finish on the podium against the Hondas that were so quick, that's pretty good. Pretty good afternoon's work for the 19-year-old Australian. Right, 27 years old. He's just got married, boy, and he's just won his first Grand Prix. Efren Vasquez.
Well, Efren, your first ever win, and you took it right at the very end. How confident were you when you were in that slipstream behind Romano?
Yeah, I tried to do my best every lap, no? But I showed that it started raining, so I say, come on, Efren, you have to be in front, because we don't know what's happened. No, here it's coming quickly to start raining, and just on the last laps, I tried to be in good position for the last laps, and I want to pass to Fenati before that straight, but then I say, okay, keep calm. If somebody pass you on the braking points there, maybe you have a problem, but if not, try to push on the straight, and I take it, and I'm really, really happy with that position.
Okay, congratulations, thanks Efren.
There's obviously a lot of talking to himself, Efren Vasquez, during the race, and yeah, a fabulous victory for him. And we always say it, I think when you see somebody win his first Grand Prix, you know there is probably more to come, and he could become a very serious championship contender, Efren Vasquez. Still 8 races to go. This is Miguel Oliveira.
Yeah, strong afternoon. Finished the race in 7th position. Was coming from 18th place on the grid. So it was a strong ride of 11 places there. A strong climb for Oliveira. But what about Romano Fenati then back on the podium? Finishes second to Efren Vasquez. Let's hear from the Italian.
Well, Romano, it was so close at the end, just losing out on the straight. But are you still happy with second place?
Yes, I'm happy because it was important to make this podium for the championship, but also for me and for my team, because the last 3 races was very difficult race. No, I crashed 2 times, and 1 time I lose in the last lap of the race. But I'm happy also for the second place because it was a good race with with a strong rider like Efren or Miller and Marquez, Rins, but I'm happy, and this is important.
Okay, thank you very much, Romano.
Yeah, he has had a tough time the last 3 races, and of course he has finished with 3 Grand Prix wins this season, so he's right back in the hunt as well. So it's Miller on 158, Vasquez on 137, Marquez on 133, and Fenati on 130, Rins on 118. And the championship's surely going to go to one of those 5 riders. But Alexei Masbou moving up into 6th place now on 92.
What a phenomenal ride that was. And don't forget, 25 points for a World Championship victory. But I think there, Nick, as you said early on, hats off to everybody because it was hard, but it was fair. But I didn't see one dodgy move that took place there in that bunch. They battled so fairly, didn't they, at the front of the race. 7 riders together. It then became 10. Remember, the gap back from 7th to 8th place was 3.5 seconds at one point. And we saw the likes of Masbou, Kornfeld, Oliveira working very hard together to close the gap. But it was this man then. He was up there at the front. Remember early on in the race, we said, very interesting, Vasquez hasn't done anything too aggressive yet. He ran down there 4th, 5th for much of the early stages. Fought through up into the top 3 and sat behind Romano Fenati around those last few corners. We said at the time Fenati was so strong on the outside line, but Vasquez was just letting him know he's there, but he didn't really intend to pass him, did he? He wanted to follow him through those last few corners to get that critical run down the start-finish straight. Great ride for this man as well. Superb stuff. Guevara finishes 8th. Solid top 10 finish then for him. And don't forget, he started in the middle of the 2nd row in 5th place. Another one of those upcoming Spanish stars.
Yet another one, but I think important for him, the result was important, but he ran with that leading bunch throughout the race. He must have learned so much. So, the podium is being prepared. This will be a very, very special moment for Efren Vasquez, his first ever Grand Prix victory. Alongside him will be Fenati and Miller. As we said, no alcohol for the 2 youngsters. Wouldn't they hate us saying that, youngsters? But
Jack Miller would hate that, yeah.
Romano Fenati and Jack Miller. But Efren Vasquez, he's okay, 27 years old. He will be able to celebrate in style. The famous Indianapolis podium. Golly, some people have stood on that one, haven't they?
Yeah, there's actually a list just behind there.
Yeah, there is, actually, just behind our box.
Yeah, all the Indy 500 winners.
We came in, yeah.
AJ Foyt, Graham Hill, Jim Clark, so many names on there from the world of car racing. And now, Efren Vasquez can say he stepped on the top step of the Indianapolis podium. Here he comes, and just up the steps. That's the paddock in the background. The media centre's in that building, 4th floor up on the left there.
Dirk Hardhoff, team manager of Racing Team Germany. Deserved for them as well. He put such a massive effort. There are the winners, look, behind the podium. And the podium ceremony is about to start here at Indianapolis. We're ready. So, who's going first? Jack Miller first? Or is it going to be Dirk Hardhoff as the team manager of Racing Team Germany? A little bit of a discussion going on at the moment. Jack Miller saying, what? No alcohol?
And don't forget, they know each other very well indeed, because Jack Miller was riding for Racing Team Germany.
For Racing Team Germany last year, so it's a special account. Here is Dirk Hardhoff. I think it's going to be Jack Miller, first of the riders in 3rd place. In 2nd place, Romano Fenati. for the maiden Grand Prix victory from the man from the Basque Country in Spain, Efren Vázquez. There we go. Team trophy. Instructors in the third place trophy presented to Dirk Hardhoff. So there's no more hard-working guy in the paddock than the former rider that runs a racing team Germany. Special day for him. His former rider, Jack Miller. Now, of course, riding for that IO Red Bull KTM team. So third place for Jack Miller, and he has increased his lead in the World Championship. Guillaume looks on, and the team. Second place, good to see him back on the podium. He will be a championship contender. He's already won 3 Grand Prix this season. It's the 18-year-old Italian, Romano Fenati. It's a day that's going to stand alongside his wedding day. We think it was last week, wasn't it, for Efren Vázquez? Efren Vázquez wins his first ever Grand Prix, and what a place to do it, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So congratulations to Efren Vázquez, and to Racing Team Germany, and to Moto3 in general. Oh, what a superb race. We're already looking forward to the next one in 1 week's time, Bruno, in the Czech Republic. So the only man that can drink the champagne. Oh, look at Vázquez, he's a bit worried. Don't you want to share it? No, breaking the law, says Jack Miller. Romano Fenati. So, all on his own, you enjoy that champagne, and with the team manager, Dirk Hardhoff. I reckon Jack Miller might have a little slug round the back of the podium, don't you, out of sight of everybody.
He should have taken a bottle of lemonade up there with him. Yeah. Well, they don't know what to do.
I don't think
Oh, that's not allowed.
I don't think Jack Miller's drunk a bottle of lemonade in his life, to be honest with you. Cracking Moto3 race to start the proceedings off here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And it's always nice. I always love it when we have a new Grand Prix winner. We had Dominic Egerter, didn't we, in the Saxon Ring in Moto2 last time out. And now we have another one in Efren Vázquez.
And he becomes, or takes, I should say, the 499th Grand Prix victory in the World Championship for a Spanish rider. So who would bet against a 500th Grand Prix victory coming their way later on? Piggyback now.
Don't drop him, Dirk. He's got a ride in a week's time. Good way from Romano Fenati and Jack Miller. Thumbs up from the three of them. Yeah, they're all satisfied for different reasons. I suppose Fenati back on the podium, which is very important for him. Obviously, Jack Miller increasing his lead in the World Championship. And Vázquez winning his first Grand Prix. Perfect result in many ways, isn't it? But it's the likes of Alex Marquez, Alex Rins are going to be the really disappointed ones.
And Jack Miller knows that could have gone so horribly wrong, doesn't he, and finished there in third place. There's a quick look then at the Constructors' Championship. The lead has decreased then to 23
hanging in
points.
There, aren't they, KTM? Just hanging in there. I think that's probably going to get tighter before the season ends, don't you? That's going to be a rare old battle between KTM and Honda.
Mahindra best of the rest, then in third place, then Husqvarna, Kalex KTM and FTR KTM, but that's less than a Grand Prix victory now, isn't it, then, between those two names at the top of the Constructors' Championship table. KTM still lead the way, but it's a 23-point advantage. Certainly has reduced over Honda. Let's look down then on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll be looking up as well, though, at the skies. We did have just a few drops of rain, didn't we, during that Grand Prix?
Yeah, it was interesting that Efren Vazquez mentioned it, didn't it? He said, yeah, I love the way he said. So I said to myself, with this, he obviously chats away, and you can imagine him chatting away in the helmet, like to himself, telling him what to do, or be careful, or speed up. It certainly paid off, didn't it? And there is the winning machine, the Honda Racing Team Germany of Efren Vazquez.
And you just
I think he's gone through the technical check all right, don't you?
Let's hope so.
Don't want any of that nonsense. So, Romano Fenati leads the way, but he knows he's coming in the slipstream. Perfect timing from Efren Vazquez, and he wins his first ever Grand Prix. And that's what they thought about that back in the box of Racing Team Germany. We have a new Grand Prix winner. That may not be his last this season. Confirmation then of the championship positions.
So Miller still leads the way and increases the championship lead as well. Now 21 points over new second place man. Vazquez jumps ahead of Marquez, who failed to finish on the podium this afternoon. Fenati fourth, and Rins drops from 35 points behind the championship leader to 40 behind. What a ride as well, up from 31st place to 4th for Alexei Masbou. Jumps ahead of Isaac Vinales for 6th position in the World Championship. So now it's 10 races down and 8 to go for Moto3.
Well, Miller must be favourite, but you'd be a brave man to really forecast the winner when we get to Valencia for that last round. You get a feeling it's going to be like a race we've just seen, don't you? Probably as it was last year to decide the championship. What a championship it is. Moto3, we love it. I think everybody over the world loves it as well. It is just fantastic.